Good morning, everybody. David Feldman-Makrias, or good evening, or good anytime, depending when you're watching this. So, the inspiration for this video, not knowing the difference is costing you thousands, is because I've done a lot of account audits recently, and not knowing this minute difference is very, very key on whether your Google Ads campaigns for your dealership or your local business or your national e-commerce business, whether they succeed or not, right? And it actually goes back to the basics, back to almost a decade or more ago when I started Google Ads and started getting familiar with Google Ads concepts. It's really knowing the difference between two things. And those two things are keywords and search terms. Knowing those differences, the difference between the two is foundational and fundamental. And I wish more people talked about it, especially in business terms, because Google Ads is a large, large, large investment, especially in the automotive space for advertising. This is one of the key concepts, and I hear it 99% of the time, especially when I talk to automotive personnel or dealer personnel. They need to know the difference between these two. And I'm going to show an example and demonstrate why it's important right now. All right, so check this out. I'm currently in a Google Ads campaign. I'm looking at the last 30 days. This is one of the accounts that I work with. And right now, instead of the usual campaign overview menu that I would usually be in, I'm actually in what's called the search term report, okay? Excuse me, the search term report basically tells you, it's a report that tells you that what people are actually typing into Google when they click on your ad and what those actual strings of text that they type in are. Now, you may say, David, well, isn't that just a keyword? What's the big deal? Well, the difference that I'm talking about that, you should know that could be potentially costing you thousands if you don't know the difference is between search terms and keywords. They are two different things, and I want to show you what that actually means. So, what I've done here is I pulled up a search term keyword report for a search campaign. This is for a Chevy campaign, right? Okay, so what I'm looking at right now, I'm inside a Google Ads account, specifically a Chevy dealer in question, and I'm looking at last 30 days of data, but instead of the campaign overview that I'm usually in, I'm actually in what's called the search term report. Okay, and that can be found under Insights and Reports and click Search Terms. So what does this report tell me? Well, on the left-hand side, it's going to give me search terms, and then as I move to the right, you'll see other columns, including a keyword column that I've added. So again, what's the difference between search terms and keywords? Well, let's see what Google says. Search terms shows actual searches that a significant number of people have used and that resulted in your ad being shown. So it used to be Google Ads would tell you every single search term that a person would type in, but there's been so many that Google just kind of collects everything together. But this is still a very significant report and tells you if you're buying the right type of searches. Now, Dave, you might say, David, isn't that just my keyword? Those keywords are the same thing, right? No, they're not. Keywords shows the keyword that triggered your ad to show for a search. So one we control and one the customer controls, or our target audience controls, right? So the thing that we control, the advertiser, the business, is the keyword. We can put out the type of keyword that we want to trigger an ad to show in front of the customer. But again, the customer actually has to type in the search term to find our ad. And oftentimes what I see is that most accounts that I look at, especially if they're not set up and configured correctly, have a difference between search terms and keywords, meaning they'll put a keyword over here with maybe Chevy or Ford or whatever, or an F-150 or Bronco or, service as a broad match, whereas as a broad match keyword, and it triggers a search term that's completely different. And I'm going to show an example of that. But first, I want to show you what it should look like, okay? Right now, I am in a Chevrolet campaign where the keywords are really just about Chevy. So you can see Chevy here is triggering a Chevy search term here. Chevrolet keyword here is triggering a Chevrolet search term here. Chevy near me, in quotes, that's a phrase match, is triggering Chevy dealers near me. Notice how the dealers is a search term that is very closely related to my keyword, but it's not exact. Again, I'm not going to talk about different type of match types in this video, but these little brackets, quotes, and different symbols on the front and the back of the keyword do actually play a role in what type of searches we show. And this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we have to look at to ensure that your Google Ads campaigns are actually working effectively. So you'll see a couple more examples. Chevrolet triggered Chevrolet cars as a search term. The Chevy keyword triggered Chevy, triggered the Chevy minivan 2024 search term. Chevy triggered Chevy SUV, so on and so forth. The reason I want to make this very, very clear is because part of the strategy that I've seen works best, and my favorite strategy to use, is when you segment your search terms in the proper order of budget. Let me say that one more time. Segment your search terms by budget. The reason I say that is because then you can allocate dollars specifically towards a certain type of search. These are all grouped together under Chevy. Now, this isn't necessarily someone looking at Chevrolet Malibu or a Chevy Silverado for sale or Chevy service parts. Those are all different. These are more broad Chevy keywords. And there are still customers that search this way, but we have a specific budget allocated to that in this instance to make sure that we show up a certain amount of times for that search term. Now, let me give you another example of it working well. I just switched campaigns here. Now, again, we have keyword, we have search term, we have last 30 days of data. Notice my campaign is different. You can't see it, but the budget is different. Budgets are set at a campaign level. This is why I separate them out by campaign. So now we're looking at Blazer EV. Blazer EV keyword triggers a Chevy Blazer EV search term. Blazer EV keyword triggers a Blazer EV search term. Blazer EV keyword triggers electric Blazer search term. Blazer EV keyword triggers Blazer electric search term. So on and so forth. Even when I get to another keyword here, 2024 Blazer EV for sale in exact match, I triggered a 2024 Chevy Blazer electric. Notice how correlated my search terms and keywords are. That is a big freaking deal. Okay. Now, if you go to your advertising company, if you have one, and say, okay, I want to see search terms and keywords, I want to see what's going on here, right? They may say, well, we use Performance Max, and, we really can't show you that because it doesn't work that way, blah, 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 blah. Garbage. It's a garbage answer. Any campaign, besides some smart campaigns, will be able to tell you something like this. You should be able to see some of the searches that are coming up for your ads, whether it's Performance Max, whether it's display you won't really see because it's all audience based, really. But Performance Max, yes. Search campaigns for sure. Videos, no. Display, no. As far as campaign types. But the big one, especially that I hear a lot, is, oh, you can't see that in Performance Max. That's a lie. You can. You can actually just go into the insights and reports, click insights, and scroll to the bottom, and you should see a search category. It's not as well laid out as this, but you will see what kind of searches your ads are buying. Now, let me show you a quick example of something where if you see this, it should be an alarm triggered in your mind. Okay, so I'm in another account right now. I switched to a different account. This is an account I've audited recently, like within the last 2 weeks. So we have access to it, and I'm in the same report. I'm in the search term report. Okay, I just had to add the keyword column in here so we have congruency from the last report. But we have the search term over here. We have the keyword over here. So this is an example of an account that's not configured correctly. I'm inside one campaign. Here's the budget. So let's read why. Search term, AutoZone cerca de mi, auto repair. Okay. The auto repair, I mean, this is a Chevy store. This is a different Chevy store. We don't want to be looking, I don't, it's not right to trigger AutoZone searches, right? At least if we're not doing it intentionally, it's not right. Auto repair, triggering a search term of tire one near me. That doesn't make sense. Car wash is triggering car wash. That's not a good search term to use. There are so many competitive car washes that don't have to do with Chevy. Like if you had Chevy car wash, that might be interesting. Never tried that. I had to blur out a few of these search terms for client anonymity, but look at this: car repair near me, keyword triggering emissions test near me. We don't want to buy an emissions test search, and we had 2 clicks on that. Why are we doing that? Right? Like that is just innately wrong. This is a service campaign, but we're buying all this stuff that doesn't make sense. Advanced auto parts. I definitely don't recommend buying a national brand like that because you're going to spend a lot of money and you won't get a lot of return. I've tried it. Car radio repair shop for auto repair. This is an example that just doesn't make any sense. And there's actually worse searches in here for the keywords. Like there's actually competitor branded searches in here for, the automotive shop. And Chevy Service Center is also another a competitive dealer's shop. We don't want to buy competition in the service campaign, at least not intentionally. Maybe we do, but if we're just doing it just because and we don't know that we're doing it, then that's a big problem. Plus, this show's limited by budget, which means Google has a lot of broad keywords to go after. We're not hitting that low funnel as best we can, which tells me it's a waste of dollars. And it's spending significant $20 a day, so that's at least $600 a month on stuff that's not working. Guys, this is what I'm talking about. Know the difference between your search terms and your keywords, and it will save you thousands. If you don't, it will cost you thousands. And this is exactly how. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Leave me comments if you're confused or you would like me to elaborate further. David Feldman-Makrias signing out.